So, I've been riding for less than a year now, and this is already the third bike that I have bought. Brand new YT Jeffsy CF One 29er, all black. Let's open this up and take a look at it. Looks like a wheels. I don't know how to do this. So I'm not gonna bore you with like putting this thing together. That's pretty boring, dumb. What we're gonna do, obviously I'm not going to ride it. Well, I might ride it actually. In the dark, just around here, but not on the trail. So what I'll do is after I get this thing put together, and then this weekend take it out for a test ride. As far as this video, we're just going to fast forward right to the test ride and see how this thing handles. I can't wait. Back here at Northshore, it's a little bit chilly today. So far feels pretty good. I gotta get used to a couple things here. The dropper post and a different shifter. Oh man. Oh gosh. We're into one thing I'm noticing, it's very planted. The rear suspension works so much better than my camber. So when you hit chunky stuff, like in a turn, this thing stays planted. Oh God. Oh man. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. That is so much smoother. Oh yeah. Behind you, bud. Thanks. All right. Let's see what we can do here. Handlebars in the chest. Oh, it's about as good as I've done. Okay, so that was the first ride on the new YT Jeffsy. This is the CF One model. I rode it again the next day, got a little better feel for it so I can kind of give my thoughts on the bike. So first of all, I have to say that I'm only comparing this really to the bikes that I've ridden. I haven't ridden any newer bikes in the same class as the Jeffsy. So if you want a comparison between those, I may have that for you later after Outer Bike. First thing I noticed getting on this bike is just how quiet it is. It just doesn't make a lot of noise. I mean, other than the rear hub. When you're actually turning the pedals, the thing is silent. When it goes over bumps and drops and stuff like that, rocks and everything, it's just so quiet. And I love that. I love a quiet bike. This is my first carbon frame, the first time I've ridden a carbon frame. I don't know how much that has to do with it, but I think it has a lot to do with how quiet it is. The next thing I noticed is that the bike just stays planted when you want it to stay planted. If you want to jump, it's pretty playful. It'll jump. But when you want it to stay planted, it does, and it does it well. There were a few turns where I really thought that I was going to slide out a little bit, maybe not crash, but at least get, to where I feel like I'm losing grip. And it didn't happen. The bike stayed planted. That suspension works great. I love it. Speaking of the suspension, that's a big difference. I mean, coming from a 110 millimeter travel bike to now this one's 140 front and rear, it just handles all the rocks and the chunk a lot better. It's a lot smoother going through that stuff. One thing that was surprising is pedaling uphill actually is easier. I thought that, the more slack head angle and more travel and all that stuff was going to make pedaling harder and slower, but I felt like I was much faster. I don't know if it's just the position that I'm seated has made a big difference. The fact the bike is a little bit lighter than my old bike, I'm not really sure. Either way, the thing pedals really well. Along the lines of pedaling, the engagement is really good. You got 60 points of engagement, which is every 6 degrees on the E13 TRS hub. So it's loud when you're just coasting, but I like that noise because that's kind of reminding me that I've got that quick engagement, and that really, really helps when you're going through technical rock gardens and stuff like that. About the only negatives I can come up with, number one is the saddle. I had read that it was uncomfortable, so I ended up swapping it out and putting my old saddle back on there that I had on my old bike. The other thing is there's a lot of cables. There's too much cable. I was kind of surprised that the bike came from the factory with the cables being so long, and it's just a big mess up front. That's not a very big deal. It doesn't affect the bike that much or really at all, but it's just kind of a cosmetic thing, and I would like to kind of cut those cables down to size a little bit. So now I'm looking forward to Outer Bike this spring in Moab to ride some other bikes and kind of compare them to the Jeffsy. I'll have a really good idea of how they compare because I'll be going directly from riding the Jeffsy all the time to then hopping on another bike. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next adventure.